Alrighty, guys. So you guys probably know already, but we are Richard's Consulting. We are a small firm, and I sort of wanted to do something a little bit different today, not just blast you with a whole bunch of information, but more try and get you guys to ask questions throughout, get your opinion, and we'll basically be here to answer any questions that you may or may not have. Some of you guys might know a little bit about us already, but I'll quickly run through a little bit of a overview of what we are, what we do, that sort of thing. And we have a couple of other staff members here that will present to you a little bit later about their experience with us. So over here, we've got Amy at the back. She's just started with us this year. And Andrew, he's been with us for 2 years. Two and a half years.
Getting on.
And I'm associate here at Richards, and I've been here for 11 years. So I started a couple of years after I graduated, and have been here since. But yeah, feel free to stop us talking and raise your hand or question, and then we'll go from there. So who are we? We're Richards. We're a small to medium firm, and we run out of 2 offices at the moment, and we are expanding. So we are looking at potentially getting a new office somewhere in the middle of the country in the next year or 2. And of course, we need people to fill positions so we can keep growing. Our team, so currently we've got about 18 down here in Christchurch and 11 staff up in Auckland. But what we prefer to employ graduates. We find that starting from the base, we can train them up the way we like, but also it basically allows us to watch the progression of our staff and see them grow, encourage them to grow, and that sort of thing. So on the same side of that, we prefer to promote within. So if you get into the base level, and we'll be looking at progressing you as fast as reasonably possible. Where we do our work. So we are a little bit fortunate here. Our director flies a little plane. So we get around the country quite easily, and we do have that sort of competitive advantage over our other engineering firms. We can whip over to Hokitika in half an hour, do a sites visit, and then come back for lunch. I do remember I was doing a whole day of inspections. We ended up going Greymouth and then doing a soil test down in the south end of the west coast. And then we decided to fly over to Taupo for a coffee before we came home. So it was a reasonably fun day. But you can see here from a little scatter plot, we've got a little big concentration of jobs around Christchurch and Northland, and then a few others all scattered around the major sort of popular areas around the South Island, and a few in the North Island there as well. This is only a snapshot for a few jobs, and I'm not sure if you guys have played with the pins on Google Earth, but there's a whole bunch of hidden ones in there as well. Yeah, so we do get around, and it's fun to actually get around it as well. What type of work we do? So we're mainly structural. So we do a lot of structural work in the residential and commercial sectors. And then we do play around with a bit of civil. So our Auckland team has a good civil engineer, and our director down here is Seepinch Civil. So we do enough civil to keep us busy, but we are mainly structural, and we're looking to expand that civil side of things a little bit as well. But the other sort of work we do is a little bit with the Ministry of Education. So we've done a few new classroom blocks, office blocks, hall structures, that sort of thing as well. So nothing really over the 4-story, but we do everything below the 4 stories really well. That's what we like to say. And the next few photos of what we do. So a little job up here to the left is Rakaya Gorge, some fancy house up there on the top of a knoll, great views to the back of Mount Hutt there. We do some interesting, so this is a school project where we actually relocated a classroom onto a new site. So we do a bit of relocation work as well, and then some interesting beam structures there to the right. Some of our residential work is not easy, it's not simple. We like the complex, and we like to mix up materials as well. So you can see here, there's a lot of timber in this right-hand one, but there's also some concrete structures and steel work in the back, if you can look really far into there. And sometimes here on the left, you know, big cantilevered structures with a little bit of steel skeleton underneath as well, just to keep that minimalistic look. So we do like playing around. There's some basic commercial shed work that we also do. We've got some high profile jobs that we've been working on. So a few years back, we designed this big wedge structure on the left here. That made it to Grand Designs, if you were watching a few years back. So that's in Wanaka there. We basically had the nickname Ski Jump House, but the proper name is the Wedge House. And there's some plenty of footage and stuff of that online. This other one here, we did that quite a while ago down in Queenstown. You might recognize the what is that? Remarkables, yes, Remarkable ski range up there. So this is Jack's Point, and this is a large residential structure, mainly made out of block. And it has a absolutely stunning view over the lake. A few things we've done is, watching the relocation houses go down the street's pretty cool. Some car park work for the civil and some interesting roof structures as well. So we get into a few interesting things and also a whole bunch of stuff that keeps us busy. So that, as an overview, that's pretty much us. A little bit later, we can talk about what we do for our graduates in training, but I thought we'd move on to getting a little bit from you guys, if you have any questions, and then moving on to hearing from Amy and Andrew. So any questions at the moment, fire them through. We're more than happy to share what we do, what we get up to.
With the structural design, are you guys doing the soil testing as well, or is that outsourced?
Yep, so we do as much soil testing as we can. Obviously, we don't get into deep liquefiable soil analysis, or any sort of tricky slope stability. We've got quite a good knowledge of what's happening around the Port Hills and the Canterbury Plains. So we do a lot of soil testing around the Canterbury area.
Yep.
In Auckland, we find that the soils are mainly expansive clays. So we don't do as much soil testing up there, but we do a little bit of shear vein for certain types of sites. Sort of like if you're going to do a renovation, we might not do a full geotechnical assessment, but use shear veins to justify our designs.
Yep, that makes sense.
We do a little bit, and a little bit more maybe down in the South Island area. Yeah. Are you into the geotech side of things a bit?
More structural. I was just interested because over the summer I did a little bit of shallow site investigations as well.
Yep.
As part of that, as part of renovations and new builds.
In and around Christchurch?
Yeah. So in through Prevelton and city centre and that sort of spaces.
Nice. Cool. Anyone else? Brittany? Shannon?
How many people how many people sort of work on each project that you do? Like, is it one person who's project managing it, or
so
people you're collaborating with?
I might actually leave that up to Amy. So she's had first-hand experience of what we get up to.
True. It really depends on the job. Well, mostly you've got like as a grad, you've definitely got a senior kind of like supervisor on the job and yourself. So jobs come into the office and they kind of get delegated to the team leaders, who delegate them out to their kind of team, and then you're working on your job. But you've also got your supervisors and people above that who are making sure everything's good before it gets sent out. But most of the time, I guess, you could say that jobs come to you, like you're mostly primarily the engineer on the job.
Yeah, so we do like that sort of autonomy. So we do give full jobs to grads, and we let them run from start to finish. So every decision gets sort of talked and discussed, but all decisions are ultimately from the engineer.
Awesome.
Cool. There's someone else there, Shannon or Lucas. Any comments from you guys? Oh no, Shannon's the co-host. Never mind. Lucas. I guess not. He's all muted and no video, so that's fine. So what I will do is, well, you guys get to choose who you want to go first.
Right, you start us off, Andrew.
Oh, sure. Yeah, basically, one thing I really enjoy about working at Richards, business beer company, is that sort of your job, your responsibility kind of thing. And that can go from the start of the design, the concept, and talking to the client and trying to figure out what they want, and also the construction stage. So I might just quickly flick through a couple of photos just from
You're not sharing the screen.
Also a site inspection that I did in the West Coast, actually. So just had the day to drive down there and have a look at my job.
Go to the top left, that probably makes it easier.
Basically. So yeah, I worked on this West Coast vets building. And yeah, I really enjoyed the job. It's quite cool. But the big thing for me was that I get to, talk to the clients, manage the job, check the architects and see what they're looking for and try and get what they want. But then also get to inspect it. So go down to the West Coast and get to seal my sort of steel work up. So I thought that was really rewarding and not something that you get elsewhere. You'd go verify the construction work, and we had some interesting cantilevers out there for the framing, and then the sort of a half portal because they want that exposed. So getting the client feedback on that and trying to get their input, the detail in the top corner. They've actually built a sort of false wall to allow that portal to come down and sort of be visible. So getting to work onto those decisions, and you as the engineer or a new engineer getting to make those calls and talk to the clients, and then go to the West Coast and see it. I thought was awesome. So yeah, I thought it was good.
You've also caught a bloody good day over in the West Coast.
I know, I caught perfect weather, perfect weather the whole day. I didn't get a single bit of rain. That's got a nice drive there, and then got to have a look at my steelwork design. So yeah, very cool. I thought that was fantastic. And I got one more sort of strengthening job in Christchurch as well. That I'll just really briefly run through. So dealing with existing structures can be pretty tricky. So we got a connection there, trying to sort out an equilateral brace that was really under capacity. So it's pretty intricate there, trying to work with the existing structure and get a new SHS to try and tie into the load there so the force can come down and go to this plate down the new brace, and then just some general strengthening work. But you got to deal with the construction stuff as well. So if they got questions during construction on your design, you got to help them out and mark things up and chat to the builders and just get that interaction. So you're not just dealing with people in the office. You're talking on the phone and you can talk to builders and kind of the solutions and stuff, which I find really quite the most rewarding part of the job. So and then it's quite cool to again just see your design coming into fruition and getting built, and then going, this block wall is now safer for the steel work. So this building perform better in an earthquake, and everyone's better off. So that's what I find fantastic. Has anyone got any questions on that, on those two jobs, or the construction monitoring side, or the design process at Richards at all? No.
What was one of the biggest things you learned when you started doing this sort of thing?
Probably just
Was there any big learning curve?
biggest learning curve was probably coming out of uni. You can't just design one element. Like you might learn how to design a steel beam, you know, just individually, but actually getting that steel beam to fit in the structure and getting the connections easy to build and having it easy to install, and you know, cost effective for the builder is probably a bigger part of the job, is that detailing and getting it to work for the builder and getting it practical. It's probably the biggest learning curve. Is quite steep, you know, because that connection between those calcs and then the real world designs that you saw the pictures of is there's a real challenge, I think, and that's quite rewarding.
Do you want to answer that one as well?
Yeah, what do you come?
I'd say, yeah, definitely following on from Andrew there, the connections was a big thing. I think what I found like last year and the years I was at uni, I did lots of, you know, that member stuff, but then you get in and you got to do the house and like how are you connecting your studs to your beams to, you know, your roof framing. Just all of that was like, yes, I have to do all this. Like it was like, duh, of course I need to do this, but
Yeah.
oh yeah, how does that all work? I probably found that was one of the bigger things that coming in, it was like, yeah, need to make sure you're doing all of that sort of stuff. But yeah, it's kind of that.
That's really cool.
Any other questions on that kind of stuff, guys? Or
We see there's another guy, Franz.
what's looking at here?
True. Here we go.
Franz and Ryan, you guys have anything to say? Want to share your videos or anything? We're basically trying to keep this as open and interactive as possible. So if you do have questions, stop us in mid chat and ask them.
So, if you want as well, chuck them in the chat. We can see those as well.
Yeah, if you want to do a video, audio, don't put so much pressure to that. Just
Yeah.
feel free to type a message in the chat if you want us to answer anything.
Cool. Yeah, so I have a wee chat here. So as Chris mentioned earlier, I'm one of the new grads here, but I'm actually one of 3, which is really cool. You know, you're not alone in that new boat. That's a great thing about Richards at the moment as well. Like Chris said, they're expanding and they've got heaps of people coming in, and that promoting from within. You've got heaps of youth in here as well. Like I think other companies, you know, you might be working with some people who are quite older than you, but I mean, there's heaps of us here who are in our young 20s, and being able to just, you know, do just daily chat is really nice as well, having people in and around your age and learning at the same kind of stage as you are. Other things, just general Richard things as a grad, I think one of the cool things is the quick turnover of work, like in comparison with some of the major projects that happen at those big companies. Here we're still working on really complex and cool things, but they are, you know, that residential or light commercial kind of vibe. So, you know, you've got turnover of 2 or 4 week kind of jobs. So you're learning constantly, and the variation in work is very wide, you know, and as well with little bits of civil in there. I mean, you get to do heaps of things. So heaps of turnover of work, and lots of new learning. With that, I also like the responsibility that you're getting is, you know, you've got to be managing your time really well and being organized to plan everything in. So you've got to be on your toes, which is really cool. There's no twiddling your thumbs at all. Lots of go, go, go. But that's great. As well, the team here, I just say it just feels like a really big family. You know, we're small. I mean, in this office, we're 18, but, you know, everyone just feels like your mate, and everyone just wants to see you grow and succeed. So everyone's always willing to lend a hand and help you out. I mean, you're sitting next to everyone. I sit next to another young engineer, Jake, and so we're always chatting about things, even if it's the small stuff. And as well, you're working really closely with your team leaders and supervisors, so checking in with them heaps as well. On that vibe as well, just the small things like spending breaks together. We've got, you know, daily life morning breaks, afternoon tea breaks, lunch together. The boys will have a football team on Thursday nights, so they're always going and playing. We do Friday night drinks in the office, and yeah, just small social events as well. Andrew's our social leader here. Oh, yeah. So we've done a few things. Like we went out to Smoky Teas the other month. This month we've got a barbecue coming up. So heaps of just socialising as well, which is awesome and helps complete that real family vibe as well. So I've written down to share with everyone. Training as well. I think that's one of the things that as a grad I was really looking for, making sure that where I was going was going to help me continue learning like as I was at uni, and I definitely found that, like especially those first few weeks we did trainings weekly. I think they're more kind of falling into that fortnightly now, but we're always going on modules about different parts. We've done, you know, soils, we've done modelling software. I know coming up we've got retaining walls. Heaps of things going through the wind code, quite hefty. Like that was something that I really was happy about because I had lots of questions from university. But heaps of training which helps us grow and makes us better engineers. So really like that as well. And what else have I got on here? I think as well, as Andrew was saying, like client interaction, that's something that I really appreciate at Richards as well, because we are small and you've, you know, got that autonomy of a job yourself. You're talking to the client, you're talking to the architect, their email, you're in charge of that communication, emails, phone calls, whatever it is, site inspections. Being able to interact with the clients is, I think, really rewarding, and also makes the job really sentimental as well. You know, this is someone's dream home, or this is, you know, really important to them. So that's really cool about Richards as well. Yeah, I guess that's some of the things I've got to share, but fire away any questions you guys have. Hopefully I can answer those as well.
Did you intern with Richards last year before you became a grad?
No, I actually interned with one of the larger firms here in Christchurch, and before that I worked on a contracting job up north on the roads. So I didn't, but came in and applied, and obviously that interview managed to go all right. Here I am. But yeah, I think comparatively I wanted that smaller vibe. I found I was feeling a bit insignificant in a big pond in some of those larger companies, and it just goes a bit over your head, and sometimes I just found I was a little bit lost, and there's heaps of people, and yeah, you're working on major projects which sometimes you're only getting these little fine bits at the end. So I really wanted to get stuck in, and this was, yeah, really, Richards really appealed to that, so I feel like I got that here.
And do you think being in a smaller firm, I don't know, you know lots of the people in the like there, so then you can ask more questions and learn from more people because you've like building those relationships up with your smaller group,
yeah,
sort of thing.
I actually wrote down that, yeah, because we're a small team, you know, everyone knows you and you know everyone, which is really cool, and you've got those personal relationships with everyone in the office. And yeah, so totally, absolutely agree with your point there. Yeah, everyone.
Okay. Cool.
I've got a bit of a general question. So you are talking about opening a new office, is that right?
Yes, yeah, it's a pipeline thing. So we've got a couple of people in the office at the moment that are looking like promising leaders. So we are getting them ready to take on their own teams. And part of that would be looking at another geographical office. So getting them working as a satellite, but still very much part of the team.
Great. So you'll be looking for some grad engineers and that kind of thing, is that right?
Yeah, yep. So current, I think Bradley mentioned this before we got started today, but we are a good way through our graduate hiring process.
Yeah.
We're coming to the tail end of it, in fact, but there's still opportunity for our Auckland office, and we're unsure if we take on an extra graduate for this year. So we've already got 2 locked in. and it's just that third one really that we're looking for.
So if you get a shiny resume, you'll
yeah, as
be
well as
convinced, is that right?
as well as internships. So we typically get a new intern every year as well. And the last 2 years, those interns have accepted the graduate job for the following year.
Nice.
Yeah, so that's been promising.
And what do you like to see in your applications? What are you looking for? What helps someone stand out?
So I guess the biggest thing for us is fit. You know, we are a small, you know, family sort of orientated, I like those words, company, and you have to get along with who you work with. So the big thing is, yeah, we like good grades. We like you to know what you're doing. We find, at least from UC, the grads come out knowing a lot of this stuff. They know a good set of base information. What we are looking for is someone that's eager to progress their own career. They're curious, so we don't want someone that is happy with the status quo. Yep. We want them to progress and have a good fit. So someone that is more than happy to take on responsibility, talk to the guys, you know, join the soccer team if you've got good soccer skills.
We're not. We're kind of social. We're kind of social.
We are a social team.
It started social, but it's getting a little bit competitive.
Social but competitive? Is that
It's a social team. Yeah, so basically anyone that could fit in with us, likes what we do, likes our vibe, then that's what we're about. Good grades obviously always help. And maybe some experience. So if you do have some interesting work that you've done, we find that your projects that you do at UC, your last year projects, they can sometimes be helpful. It at least gives us an idea of what you might be interested in. So we've had people do fire type projects, we've done structural projects, and even a few that have come through with some geotechnical type projects as well. But not necessarily that's what they wanted to do, but it was just what's available. And sometimes they go back to what they did in their project, but most of the time they sort of find something else that they're interested in. Yeah.
Great. Cool. Thank you so much for that.
But we're more than happy to bring in the office and have a chat. So if you were interested at providing your information, we would love for you to come and have a chat one-on-one. We have found in the previous years that those one-on-one interactions are great. You can't sort of beat it. So this format is good, but we do encourage, if you are interested to have a chat with us, drop us your information and we'll be in touch. Our offices are really close to the university. So bottom of Middleton and Blenheim Road there is where we're situated. So it's very close, almost walkable. Definitely, if you're on a Lime, it's no problem. Yeah, so I think we've got our email address there in the chat, if you can find that, but also we can, a few of you have already jumped on our website, so you've got contact information there. But if you flick off any queries that you have to that RCE website, email address, we'll definitely be in touch. Yeah, so that's a bit of the where we're sitting at the moment with recruitment.
That's a really generous offer, and I hope you have some students take you up on that. That's great. And if any of you students are feeling a little bit nervous about reaching out to a company, it can be intimidating. Feel free to drop into UC Careers and we can help you with that. We can help you come up with some questions, make sure you're just feeling a bit more confident about getting out there. So Bradley and Brittany, already with your cameras on, you're doing well. So good job there.
Nice.
Yeah.
Cool. So we don't have a lot more material, to be fair. We wanted this to be as casual as possible. We haven't touched on a couple of things like what we do. We do have a formal training process, and Amy's sort of touched on that a little bit. We do like to progress that knowledge amongst our grads. We employ grads, so we do expect there to be a big learning curve for the first year and a half of learning the stuff that is more practical on-site knowledge that isn't necessarily covered under university, but it's very helpful in the consulting area. And then just bringing that knowledge that you did learn at university and finding a practical way to use it. So it might not necessarily be design every single bit of your beam, but find a way to know that your beam is going to work in a certain situation. So there's slight little differences between the academic side of things and the practical consulting side of things. But no one's asked any questions about environmental. We try to stay current with all the latest updates that the government's going around, but the big one on the ticket at the moment is environmental. So we do expect big changes in this part of the industry. So if you are interested in, saving the planet, yes, like most people would be, we are consciously thinking about ways that we can improve our designs to minimize our effect on our carbon footprint.
Sorry to interrupt, is that kind of through the use of like engineered timbers rather than a lot of steel, or what kind of?
Yep. So the interesting thing is we get information from all industry representation. So the Concrete Society comes to us and says concrete's the best for carbon. The steel guys say steel's the best for carbon, and the timber guys say timber's the best for carbon. They all definitely have their ups and downs. And yes, we do use a lot of engineered timber where we can. It's obviously got quite a lot of benefits with that carbon store. The jury, I believe, is still probably a little bit out on the recycling or the reuse of those materials. However, we do have a project on in New Brighton where the UCSA building, you guys might not have seen it. Was that big timber structure there when you first started? We are doing the work to repurpose that as a church over in New Brighton. So big timber structure, had a very short design life, but we are looking to, repurpose it, give it a whole nother life in another location. So does have its advantages. If you can work with timber in that space and reuse it again and again, as long as you can, then that has huge advantages for the environment. With concrete, there's a lot of research going on with adding fly ash and alternative cements. Now that's, low carbon cements are going to be nothing but good, particularly in the work that we do, where we're not after, 50, 60 MPa concretes. If we're just chucking something into the ground for a little bit of uplift weight, there's no reason why we should use a high carbon product. So we can potentially use alternatives there. And with steel, the ability to recycle it is obviously quite good. So it does have direct repurposability. You can chuck it through a recycling mill, get something else straight out the other end. But it is carbon heavy to go through that recycle process. So yeah, I'm still on the fence. I'm still looking at a lot of the research. Timber, I am leaning towards timber being one of the best options, provided that we can reuse it and repurpose some of that material. So looking at that post-life structure, what does it look like once our buildings get demolished? So yeah,
sounds super cool.
Yeah, I think you guys probably been exposed to that at university, maybe even more so than us. But the government are going to come out with regulations that is going to force a lot of consultancies to work in this space. So it's really good that we're thinking about it and employing people that are conscious about this sort of thing. Yeah, sorry, Brittany.
What is sort of your on-site time versus design time? Does it vary too much to say, or how much time the average engineers in your office spend, or are there some that are more site-based than others, or how does that work?
Well, basically distribute days during the week. So you might go out for a whole day. So I typically find I go out once a fortnight for a day. So usually we try and, those inspections come in and then sort of allocate it to days, and you might go out and do 4 or 5 inspections for a whole day, sort of every fortnight. So yeah, that's probably about the ratio. If you've got a job that you've done, you can always put your hand up and try and go out to that one. So but those 2 jobs that I showed you guys, that I want to go to those ones because I was quite happy, quite keen to see the job. So yeah.
So it's about once every fortnight, whole day. And sometimes it's a bit more. And for the grads, there's a little bit of a quiet time for the first couple of months, just while you find your feet. But a few of the grads now are going out by themselves on site already. So that's only been 3 months since they've started, and they're already doing full site inspections by themselves. So that's the aim, is as many engineers doing everything that they can. Yeah.
And other site investigations, is it like QAing or like what sort of things are you doing?
So when you do your design, you produce that documentation, like you might, say that, to support this roof, you need this size universal beam or something with this connection detail, and you draw it up. So you'll draw that, sketch of that detail. So when you do the site inspection, you're basically going out and you're sort of ticking off all of the stuff that you designed and verifying it. So yeah, it's very much a QA for the builder. So, you might design the connection from the beam and the column, and you basically go out the side and inspect that and verify ultimately, and that you've got 2 bolts and you've got this size cleat and stuff like that, and the member's the right size and it's in the right place. And it's also the main thing for you as well is just doing that last check, because for a lot of houses it's the pre-line before it's all covered up. So you're sort of the last person who's responsible for checking that that building's going to be safe ultimately. So you're QAing your own design as well as checking the builders put in what you've asked them to. So there's that kind of final sign off, which is quite cool. You put your name in and go sign on design inspection.
Further to that, Andrew, how many times do you go to site and the design isn't the same as what you've drawn?
It's a good 50-50. Well, not 50-50, but like usually for the residential building site, there'd always be like a couple of things that you want to build to tidy up and stuff like that. So you might get some photos of that later. 50-50 is harsh.
Wow.
It's probably 50% of the jobs will have something that's changed.
Yeah.
Something to make it a little bit easier to build, or the builders added their input. We don't like getting surprised. So we do encourage builders that if they want to change something, they talk to us before they order the materials. But there's now and again, there's something that will pop up that we have to sort out.
Say if you've done a house design with sort of 10 beams and some bracing portals, you've got sort of 40 connection details that the builder's got to do. And we're pretty picky, so we kind of expect that to be right. We're happy if it's different, as long as it's also sort of compliant. So out of those 40 connection details, I'm talking about half the jobs might have a couple of those, not quite what we're looking for, or changed a bit. So it's a small percentage of the work the builder's doing, but it's half the jobs have 1 or 2 details out of 40 that you want to fix up and stuff like that. And that's quite fun, because you chat to the builder on site and usually try and come up with it on the spot and sort of do a hand sketch on your page and work on it together. And he's like, oh, I've got these straps on site. And you're like, oh yeah, cool, we can use them, like this, and that's what we're after. And then he's happy, you're happy. And I really find that quite fun.
Yeah. So we do try to take a very...
Is it usually...
Oh, sorry, Brittany?
No, it's okay.
We try to take a very pragmatic approach with this sort of thing. Like the whole design team, the builder, we're all in one sort of basket when it comes to the client's perspective. So we're all there to basically finish the product. So every time that something like this changes, we just muck in and get a solution sorted, which is fun.
Yeah, I like that.
The last thing we want to do is say, this isn't going to work, let's pull it down. It's not good for anyone.
Yeah. I was just going to say, do you usually work with the same builders, or does it change each time? Do you have like a few common that you work with?
Yeah, there's probably a handful of builders that we see quite often. And then there's a whole bunch of other builders that we see now and again.
Usually architects, right? Usually architects, there are a lot of architects that we have relationships with, so that all their architectural engineering work comes to us basically. So they'll have sort of quite a few architects working on projects and taking engineering input, sort of we do their engineering. So that sort of relationship gets built up.
The homeowners are normally the ones that engage the builder, and they'll find one or two builders, compare quotes, and then choose one. So we don't have a lot of control over that side of things. So we do get a full spectrum of builder experience, and some of our role is a little educational to the builders, but for the most part, builders are pretty good.
Would you be able to talk on any potential flexibility in work hours or how work hours work at Richards?
Yeah. So we obviously with COVID recently, it's been a little bit disruptive. So we have the ability to work at home. We do prefer everyone working from the office, but we have trialed a few things like 9-day fortnights. Most of the staff at the moment do flexible hours. So some people start at 7:30. I think Bryce might come in at 7 and then do an 8-hour block or an 8.5-hour block sort of thing. And most people would take probably a half day Friday or early off Fridays. So you make up your few hours so you get that little bit of a break towards the end of the week.
Is that 80-hour format?
Pardon?
Just that 80-hour.
Yeah.
Kind of.
So we sort of lock in between, I think it's 9 and 3. We want people in the office. And then we have that 80 hours that you have to work every fortnight. So there's a bit of flexibility around that. But because we are, because we like the chat, we want to see everyone working. It is hard to get that when people are working from home a lot. So we do prefer people in the office, but we are quite flexible with the hours that you're working.
Yeah, it sounds cool.
Yeah. And doctor's appointments, all that sort of stuff, we're very accommodating. So you need to duck away for something, go for it. All we ask is make sure that you make up the hours some other way. Is that important for you, the hours? Because we get a little bit of feedback from people what they want, but what are you after?
I think it would be important to me to have some flexibility of start and finish, but I really enjoyed working from the office over summer and learning with other people. So no, it all kind of sounds right.
Yep. We do have some young families in the office as well. So we find that 1 or 2 staff members are a bit torn. They either get lots of work done at home with the kids running around, or they get absolutely no work done. So it's an interesting one. But COVID's forced us to work from home, and it does work. But I think most people in the office do prefer coming to the office. I do.
Sure. I do as well.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, we've only got another few more minutes, so if you do have any other questions, fire them through. Otherwise, we could talk about another project that we've been involved with or anything like that.
Yeah, that'd be cool.
I'll pull up a job. We've done an interesting building in the middle of town. I don't know the job number. Hang on. Just give me a second. These guys will talk to you for a minute while I get something up.
What should I talk about?
Here we go.
Chris and Andrew have talked about everything we need to talk about. Maybe just while Chris is getting us up, maybe like one of the things that I've really valued since like working for Richards is definitely the feedback side of things. I think coming from uni, you're doing assignments and there's just a percentage grade that goes up on Learn or some ticks on your paper that comes back in the Dropbox. With all the jobs, you know, we have multiple QA processes. So every QA for every job, you are, you know, discussing something or learning something. And that feedback, I think, is really valuable. And it was always helping me learn new things. Even if it's just a comment like, oh, next time on a job, maybe we'll think about it like this, or something. And that feedback's both ways as well, you know, like our team leaders and Sam here always is checking in with us and asking, you know, how's things going? You know, is there anything that you'd like from us? The grads between Auckland and Christchurch have a catch up once a month at the moment as well. And so things like, oh, we'd like, you know, all of us going, we're kind of dabbling in this at the moment, but don't really know what's going on. So could we have a training module on so-and-so? So I think the feedback is super great in both directions and something that I really value as well at Richard. So yeah.
That's really good to hear. I really enjoyed that over summer where I was working. Was very like communicative. I had a mentor and we both would meet up and talk about how it was going and stuff, and that's super valuable.
Yeah, no, totally agree. Yeah.
Cool.
Do you want to? Oh, sorry. Do you have a question, Brittany? Keep interrupting.
No, it's okay. Do you get given a mentor when you become a grad, or is there a grad like rotation, or how does that work?
So I guess for us, we don't have a mentor as such. I feel like because it's small, everyone's kind of so you've got your team leader. So in our 18-man office, 3 of those guys are actually receptionists, but everyone else is only split between 2 teams. So you've got that team leader, and also anyone who's supervising a job or you sit next to is always helping you out. So Jake's in my team, but he's not my supervisor, but he can always give me feedback or help me out. And, you know, just even chatting with people and on breaks, you know, you've got someone to bounce ideas off or, you know, give you some tips and tricks.
That's cool.
Cool. So some of the work that we do is obviously designing new buildings. We talked about relocation work, but we also, you know, the earthquakes happened 10 or so years ago. And so a big part of our work is related to earthquakes, whether it's assessments of houses to make sure that damage scopes get done properly, or designing new structural strengthening to bring buildings up to a percentage of current code. So the job I'm about to show you is a big timber building in the middle of town. You guys may be familiar with it, but it's, has anyone heard of the McLean's Mansion? No, that's fine. So basically, let's try and find a good photo. The McLean's Mansion is off Manchester Street, south of Beeley Ave. And it was a huge 3-story structure with carry studs, and it was quite heavily damaged in the earthquake. It has a big basement, lots of cracking in the walls. And our job here was to essentially come and have a look at it and figure out a way to bring it up to current code. There was a lot of damage with the foundations, so it settled close to 300 mil in the earthquakes. The ground underneath this is about 2 meters of somewhat okay soil over very liquefiable soil. So that crust layer, we like to call it, was going to be used in the final design. There was a few options, but we basically said the most economical one is to make a slightly more robust foundation, re-level the building, and then put some ground beams in, so we can try and prevent any movement in any future event. So this is upstairs. So these are big lead domes that were constructed on the 3rd floor, and all of the stud heights of the floor to ceiling on each floor is around 4.5 meters to 4 meters. And all of these studs, all this framing is carry framing, which is fantastic native wood that you can't use anymore for construction, but very strong in compression, not so great in tension. What we basically did was strip out, it's obviously a heritage building. Old McLean, I think, was forced to sell a lot of land down Southland, and he built this instead, and then he died a year or so later. So it was donated to Women Refuge, and they used it to train or to keep women safe, and then they used it for training nurses for a long time. And it hasn't been occupied since the earthquakes, except for the occasional tagger. But yeah, we're basically stripping off the wall linings and adding plywood to strengthen all the walls. Another big part that we did was, see if we've got some later photos, is put these big foundations in. It's a rough floor plan. That's it during construction a long time ago. So about the 1900s it was built. And then these big domes at the top, which we had a photo of before. We're putting in these foundations and trying to minimize the impact on the actual structure so that aesthetically it's going to look almost identical to what it was pre-earthquake. But then we're going to strengthen it up, add these points of contact that we can add new structural hold downs, tie that into the foundations down here, and then add plywood to the walls. So if you have designed a plywood shear wall before, basically we're converting it into a new ductile timber structure, using the existing framing where possible and trying to keep as much of the existing structure as possible as well. So you notice we're keeping the cladding on for this construction, and everything that we're doing is trying to hide underneath the floor, so that, or behind the walls, so no one can see it, which is in line with the heritage side of things. So a whole bunch of hardware going in. Every piece is unique because the existing framing is unique and there's no similar connection. A whole bunch of steel framing, steel reinforcing in the foundation to create those new robust foundations. Yeah, so this is a typical construction inspection that we did, trying to sign off a little bit of the foundation work. That's sort of what we've got in the way of hold downs. So it's a big, robust concrete plinth that ties itself into the structure. Yeah, so that's a pretty cool job that we got involved with. That has been going since 2018. It's on a bit of a go slow. There's a whole bunch of constant funding stuff going on, which I won't get into too much, but a charitable trust has bought the building and they're looking at fully restoring it. And then I'm not entirely sure what it's going to end up being, but it could be used for many different reasons. Could be offices, could be part residential. So we're sort of keeping our options open there. Cool. Any questions on that particular job?
No, it looks cool though.
Yeah. So that's essentially what you'd consider maybe a basic earthquake strengthening, but with a non-basic building.
Yep.
Awesome.
Perfect.
Is there some chats? Is there?
Oh.
Cool. Awesome. Well, any other final questions? Fire them through. But yeah, we do encourage, if you are interested, send us an email on that email that's in the chat, and we can organise you to come down to the office, have a chat, grab some.
I can't see an email in the chat, but is that just the RCE at Richards?
Yep. rce@rcengineers.co.nz. Yeah.
Cool. Perfect.
Right.
Sounds great. Thank you very much.
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
Come down and get a calc pad or something as well. We've got things to give away.
Sounds good.
Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for that. That was a really friendly, warm presentation, and I hope that you all had your questions answered. I know you did. Definitely take up Richard's Consulting on their offer of a face-to-face informational interview. get some more information about the industry, make some connections, great opportunity. Yeah, any questions about that stuff, come and see UC Careers. We can support you with that. And have a great day, everyone.
Perfect.
Thanks so much, guys.
See ya.